Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Today, we will be learning how to file 1099s electronically via our partner, Nelco. We really appreciate your time today. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today we are going to be talking about filing 1099s. And first thing, we're going to start in UManage. I'm going to show you a couple of things in there. And then after that, we're going to scooch on into Nelco. Nelco is a separate website, uh, and we have formatted a spreadsheet to allow you to import information out of UManage and into Nelco, which should make that process quite a bit easier for you. All right, so right now, everybody should be seeing the home screen, the home screen for my demo site. And just a little bit of background. Last year or the year before, I don't remember which, IRS passed a new regulation requiring that anyone who is filing 10 or more 1099s, that they have to be filed electronically. And when we're talking about 10 or more, that is by association, not by company. So if XYZ Association has 10 or more, it has to be filed electronically. If ABC Association has less than 10, those theoretically could still be filed manually. However, we would recommend just filing everything electronically and hopefully making life a lot easier on yourself. Alrighty. So in order for you to be able to process your 1099s, you're going to have to do two pieces of keeping, if you will. The first is in your chart of accounts. If you go to accounting, financial, and chart of accounts page, and I'm just going to pull up expenses. I'm just going to pick one, right click on that, and I'm going to click on the edit account. You need to pick what 1099 category any expenses that might need a 1099 category would get. Most homeowners association, most of the vendors that you pay, probably going to get 1099 NEC. Here at Unify, we support both an NEC and an MISC. So if you do have some that do need to get an MISC, we support that as well. And the system will make that decision for you based on the box that the balance would need to report in. So we have all the boxes for both the miscellaneous and the NEC. And you would just tell the system for this GL account, it's anything that gets paid out of here that qualifies for a 1099 would need to go out of the non-employee compensation. Beyond that, we already have the minimum amounts due pre-programmed in, so you don't have to worry about that piece because between the boxes on the MISC and the boxes on the NEC, the minimum amounts due range from $0 to $5,000. So we already have all that information pre-programmed into UManage. All you need to do is decide by general ledger account number what box anything paid out of this general ledger would hit. My guess is probably most, if not all, again, are going to be the non-employee compensation. And this box is going to hit on NEC X1. Again, though, we do have boxes for the MISC form as well. Um, royalties, rents, Section 409A deferrals, etc. You do need to use some of those. You absolutely can, and the system will provide an MISC for you. Okay, so I'm going to close that. If you do not have that set on your general ledger account numbers, you're not going to be able to produce a 1099. So normally what I would recommend, if you go to ports and you go to accounting, and you can pull up chart of accounts, and you can click on show report, and you can see what is in that 1099 category. And I have all of mine set. But if yours never got set, or if you missed a few, you can either fix that process manually on the chart of accounts page, like we were just on, or even better, you can do that on the administration and the import data page. Click on the update mode, and then you can pick the chart of accounts. And all you would need is the association ID, the GL number, and the 1099 category. And then you can copy and paste that into the add import option here, and then the system will populate that for you. And the other option that you would need to make certain is set up is you need to tell the system which vendors need to get a 1099. So if you have a vendor and you manage, and you've told us that anything paid out of this general ledger is going to go to that box 1 on the NEC, but you don't have that vendor flagged for a 1099, you manage is not going to produce a 1099. And the way you tell you manage which vendors need to get that 1099 is to go to Counting, AP, and Manage Vendor. We'll pick a vendor. So I'm just going to grab Bluth Landscaping, click on the pencil to edit, and I can click right here next to the 1099. And then that's going to let me know this vendor needs to get a 1099. And I know this vendor needs to get a 1099 because I will have gotten a W-9 from him, and I will have looked at what he filled out where he would have told me that he is partnership, a sole proprietor, an LLC, not a C Corp or an S Corp or incorporated. If you have questions about that, my recommendation is either hop onto the IRS website and read through their publications for the MISC and the NEC forms. You can also reach out to your CPA to verify if you have W-9 and you're not entirely certain whether they get a 1099 or not. I would recommend either reading through the publications or providing that W-9 to your CPA and asking them, hey, should this guy get a 1099 or should he not? Those would be your best options to make certain you're sending out 1099s to the appropriate parties. Also, clicking on that flag, absolutely, making sure that you have the correct name and address for the 1099. And you can put it here on the 1099 name. There's nothing here. UManage is going to pull it from the legal name. And then this is where we're going to find the address for the 1099. Also have to have a federal tax ID number. If there's not a federal tax ID number, we're not going to produce a 1099 for it. All right. So once you've made sure you have all those items in place, you want to start working up your vendors for 1099s. There are a handful of different reports and pages in UManage that you can do just to check things beforehand. First of all, if you're a brand new company or you have a brand new association or associations, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get the amounts paid out to vendors, either by the prior management company or you paid out of your prior system into you manage, so you don't have to produce two separate 1099s for your vendors. And we have a page that you can enter everything on, and that is counting AP, AP processing, and additional 1099 amounts. So you can go here, you can find the vendor. So in this case, I am going to look at the term 2 industries. I'm going to click on the pencil to edit. And again, you have all the box numbers that you need. I can put this in my non-employee compensation. So this would be the amounts paid out either by the prior management company before they went live with my company, or these are the amounts paid out of my old system before I went live with UManage. Either way. And all the rest of the boxes are there as well. You just need to make certain that you have the correct year, and I didn't do that. So just make sure you're changing that to the year you want to enter, which is 2024. And then you can click on it and make sure you enter those amounts into the correct boxes. Okay, once you have that in, you can do that there. Also, if you have a lot of them and you don't want to enter these one at a time, you can come over to the administration and the import data page. We have a spreadsheet for additional 1099 amounts. It's a very short spreadsheet, but every single item is required. You got to have the association ID, the vendor ID, and the vendor ID is this number right here, 1099 category code. So that would be non-employee compensation or whatever box you want to put it in. The year, so 2024, and then the amount that needs to be imported, again, from either what the prior management company paid out for they went live with you, or what your prior system paid out before you went live with UManage. And you can just use a spreadsheet to import that data in, and then you'll be able to put everything onto one 1099, and you can run all that through Nelco if that's what you want to do. Okay, so that's some prep work that you may or may not need to do. If you're not new in 2024 or you haven't taken on any new business in 2024, then what we just looked at would not necessarily be something you would need to worry about. But we do have a couple extra, maybe helpful reviews before you process. One thing you might want to do is look at some of your invoices, making certain if you go to reports, AP, and then you're going to go to invoices. Let's see. And we want to look at the prior year. So I'm going to look at paid date, prior year. And this will just show you all of your paid invoices for the prior year. If you guys are interested in looking at that, you can also look at the GL distribution and click show approve or show report. And this will show you a list of all of the invoices that you've paid for each association for the prior year. And you can take a look at these Might give you an idea of things that should be getting a 1099 for. Another report that might be helpful for you is a report for 1099 info. And that's going to be on this same reports and AP reports page. You're going to want to go to 1099 detail. Now you can use this report in a couple of different ways. If you just want to look at the vendors that you currently have set with a 1099, you would decide on 1099 checked, and you can look at the prior year, and you can leave that minimum amount for 600, and you can click on show report, and that will show you everything that you should be generating for a 1099. However, if you want to take a look at all your vendors and maybe see everyone you've paid for the prior year to see if maybe everyone is set correctly, all their statuses are correct, you can just change this instead of looking at checked. Selecting select will look at all vendors, and I'll change that minimum amount to 0. Click on show report, and then I can take a look, and I'm looking at vendors who also aren't checked. And then I can decide, totally new vendor, oh, maybe this guy does need to get a 1099. And then I can do a little more research if I feel it's warranted. All right. So those are just some things that might be helpful for you. All right. So I'm going to just take a small break and we'll check and see if we have any questions. I don't see any questions right now. Does anyone have anything so far they'd like to ask? I'm not seeing anything popping up. All right. So let's hop on to formatting a CSV file to get into Nelco. So once you've done your prep work, it could include some of the information that I've just gone over with you. Hopefully, I've shown you a new report that you might find helpful. If not, maybe you have some different reports that you enjoy. Use whatever works best for you and your team. When you get everything set and ready to go, the next thing you're going to want to do is to create a file for upload into Nelco. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to Accounting, AP, AP process, or excuse me, 1099 processing. And I'm going to go to process 1099 forms. And I already have that page pulled up. So right here, the system's gone ahead and pulled up all of the vendors that would match 1099 NEC or MISC criteria. And it already has them pulled up for me. Now, if I want to go ahead and run these just the way they are with everything in it, I can just click on this guy right here and then tell it to generate the Nelco file. If I don't want to run all of these for whatever reason, I can just grab the ones I want. So in this case, I'm just going to run 2 because I actually ran some a couple days ago, so I don't want to rerun my entire list again. So I'm just going to pick these 2 this time. And then I'm going to click generate my Nelco file. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to process that Nelco file for me. When it's done, it's going to tell me to download my file. Now, as you can see, I have my 2024 year pulled up and I have my association pulled up. And I just apologize to you guys ahead of time. I have a very insistent cat who's determined that I not see my screen during my webinar. So I can run it just for this one association, which I have done. I can also decide to run for all associations, or if I just want to run it for those items designated as my associations, I can do that too. So you don't just have to run them one at a time. If you're comfortable running them multiples or running all of them, you can do that as well, whatever works best for you and your team. Now that my files have downloaded, or excuse me, processed, I'm going to download them. And what that's going to give me is a zip file because it's going to process miscellaneous and an NEC file. So if I pop this open, this is just going to be an HTML document, and you can see all the information that's available in this file. And then now that we have this document, we're going to go and we're going to import this into. So Nelco, like I mentioned earlier, is a separate site. So I'm just going to open that up right now. Okay, great. You should be able to see my Nelco login screen now. If you're not able to see it, please let me know. But in order to log into Nelco, you will have to create your own login and password. For those of you who did this last year, you may need to click on forget password if you didn't write it down, or maybe someone else who's not there anymore did it. Now you can have as many logins and passwords for your company as you need, but Nelco recommends creating one login and password per company. So I will let you guys decide what works best for you, whether you want to have multiple or whether you only want to have one. So once you've either A, created your account, or B, logged into the account that you created last year, and if you are, FYI, creating a brand new account, I was asked by the Nelco representative to tell you to make certain that you are reading the end user license agreement. All right. So once you have logged in, it's going to take you to your filing home. And in order to import in that file that we just downloaded, I'm going to click on import data, and I just want to apologize. I think I called it a CSV file earlier. It's not a CSV file, it's an HTML file. I'm going to click on choose file, and then I'm going to pull up my file, and then I'm going to tell it to import. All right, so it's going to go ahead and it's going to bundle the for federal filing and the recipient copy, and it's going to go ahead and give me the price for both of those together. So you don't have to accept the bundle that it provides. You can decide, you know what, I just won't want the federal e-filing. I don't want the recipient mail and online retrieval. Um, we recommend that you take it because it'll, again, make your life a lot easier. Because if you don't take that, you will still have to mail out the recipient copies separately, but it's completely up to you. Once you have everything in, you can go ahead and click on next. All right. So it skipped over the next page because I have email addresses in, but what it would have done is it would have given us the opportunity to go in and either to add email addresses if there weren't any in there. So I have email addresses in, so it just kind of passed by that page. Next up, if I want, I can preview my forms. This is just going to let me see what that particular form is going to look like. Oops, over here. So let me pull that up for you. It's just showing you what it's going to send out to the IRS on our behalf. You also get a summary report, which just tells you based on what's been entered, MISC, how much goes in rents, how much goes in fishing boat proceeds. Obviously, probably, I'm guessing, your HOAs are not going to have any of those boxes, but for this particular um, example, I was just making certain I could hit all the boxes. But yes, this will show you the summary of what's going out. And you can even have a detailed report as well, which just gives you a detail of everything that you're sending out. All right. So when you're ready and all of your items look good, you can go in at this point in time. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't just have to work on one association. That's all I'm working on. You guys can have multiples if you are so inclined. You can add and edit emails also here. If you realize you have a different email for somebody, you want to get that in there, you can. When you're ready to get these out, you're going to click Next. Make sure you have your credit card information entered. And when you're done, you're going to click Pay and Submit. Okay. So this is going to tell me that I have successfully filed my returns and kind of sort of done. Now, there are some extra things you can do here if you are so inclined. If you get onto the form filing history by clicking there, I went back to the home page. I click on form filing history. There's a lot of information here that you can access for what you filed. You can see here that I filed two separate times. I filed NECs and MISC separately. You don't have to do it like this because the thing about Nelco is the more you file, the less it costs. So if you break it up like I did, you're going to pay more. However, if you keep importing in your 1099s, even though they're for different communities, and you wait to get them all in at one time, your costs will probably go down. So we would recommend as much as you can, wait until you get everything imported in and then go ahead and submit so you're paying less. If you break it up, you're going to pay a little more. But then again, that is up to you. If it works better for you, if you don't mind paying a little more because it makes more sense for your team to break it up a little bit, that's fine too. But from this form filing history page, if you click here on this clock icon, you can check the status of the filing. So this will tell you, it'll tell you that the filing's been confirmed, but it'll also tell you when it's been sent to the agency, and it'll tell you when it's been accepted. If you click on the print icon, you can print, you have different forms that you can print and look at. One that I like is, you can, the detailed listing, and that's that detailed report that we were talking about earlier. So if you didn't access it first while you were going through, you can access it again here, and it's a CSV file. And you've got other reports that you can access. Most of these are in PDF. All right, so back to my form filing history page. You've got an email icon. If you wanted to re-email these out to recipients, you could send these again and it'll have their email address in there, which is me. All right. And back to my form filing history page. And then the last button here is if you need to make a correction to any of your 1099s. And there are a couple of different reasons why you might need to make a correction. Wrong recipient, tax ID, name and or address. Then you would click this item. Wrong amount of filing, click this item. Wrong form type, you would click this item. Now, for wrong form type, all you have access to are NECs and MISCs. So the most you could do correcting it here would just be filing the other type of form. So keep that in mind. Okay, so just take a quick break, see if you guys have any questions. I don't see anything popping up? Either chat or questions? I'm not certain if I'm just explaining it so well. There's no need for questions, or you guys are just crying so hard you can't see your keyboards to type. I'm going to go with the former as opposed to the latter. We'll keep moving on. All right, so just some general questions that I thought you might have myself. So, oh, we did have a question pop up. Will it be sent to the vendor's email after I click email recipients? Yes, it will. It should also be sent out before you click that as well. So when you actually submit your forms, the system will do that for you. That would be if you need to do it again for some reason. All right, thanks for that. So some other questions that you might have. One important one is pricing, wanting to know how much this is going to cost you. Up here at the top, there is our how it works page. If you click on that now, just so you know, when you're importing everything in, it's going to keep track of price for you. So you're going to know before you even submit how much that batch is going to cost you. I think worst case scenario is if it stumbles across a vendor that's out of the country. I know that some of our partners that are in the northern part of the country, some of their vendors are in Canada. So yeah, you might have some additional fees that are attached to sending 1099s there. All righty. But if you click on how it works, if you scroll down, you will see your 1099 pricing, and it'll show you based on how many that you are filing and sending out. You can see how the cost how goes down, and you see you get up to 100K. It's getting down real low. So again, more you can get in before you click that submit and get them all out, the less you're going to pay per item. Okay. Um, when do okay, before I almost did forget, any filing the day before and the day of the filing deadline will result in $1 being added to each form. So if you wait till the very last minute, that's going to be an extra $1 per form to get those out for you. To that end, when are the filing deadlines? Well, for the 1099 NECs, your filing deadlines are on January 31st. You have more time for your MISCs if you want to do those separately. I think those are due, let's see. Your MISCs are due, I think, the end of February and maybe even the end of March if you're doing it electronically. But I would recommend you check with um, the IRS website to verify. I do know NECs are due by January 31st, but MISCs, you got a little more time on those if you have any that you need to file. So next up, how will I know the IRS has accepted my file? You will get an email indicating acceptance. We looked at it, we looked a little while ago that you will also see that on the form filing history page. If you click on that clock that we looked at earlier, it'll tell you if your forms are accepted. You'll see that here. And the next question is, how do you know if the IRS has rejected any part or all of your file? Now, the rejections will show up in the message center right here. Also, you'll get an email letting you know that the IRS has rejected any or all of your file. All righty. So the next question was, what if you need to do a correction? And we talked about that just a few minutes ago, but I'll go back through that with you. Click on the little pencil to edit. You're going to decide what reason that you need to do the correction for. Then you're going to click on correct. You're going to pick your vendor, tell it next. Then you're going to click on edit, and then you'll be able to go in here and make that change. Then click next, next again, next again. So, and then pay and submit. And then we briefly touched on this earlier. How many logins can I have? For security purposes, best option is to have one login per company. That is on the recommendation of Nelco. But again, I leave it to you and your team. Figure out what's going to work best. And then how long will I be able to review filing information in Nelco? You'll be able to view 3 years history, and then 4 years will be available in backup. Okay, so that is actually all I had to go over today. So do you guys have any additional questions? I'm going to go ahead and I am going to allow everybody to unmute. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute your microphone, and that's going to be down on the icon bar at the bottom of your screen. Just make sure that you turn on your microphone. Once you do, I should be able to hear you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to turn your microphone on. I see somebody's got their microphone turned on. If you have a question, please go ahead. Okay. Well, I don't hear anyone asking a question, and I don't see any more questions in the question/chat pages. So I'm going to go with no one has any additional information at this time. Now, if you think of things after we close out, feel free to ask. I'll answer what I can. And if I don't have an answer for you, I'll be happy to get an answer for you. I can reach out to Nelco. You can also reach out to Nelco. If you have trouble in UManage, you can do that as well. Now, as for paper copies of your 1099s, I haven't decided yet, since I think most people want to do this electronically. That seems to be the area that we are moving in. I have not decided if I'm going to do a webinar on actually printing paper copies of your 1099s. So if anyone here now is interested in doing paper copies, if you'd let me know, that might help me decide whether that's even something that anybody wants. Just raise your hand or put something in the chat. Just let me know if you're interested at all in paper copies. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So one of the things that I did want to do before we go real quick is I got to thinking about some of our other features in UManage and how you can kind of utilize um, those items to make your life a little bit easier. So, once you get your items out for Nelco, you're going to want to build those back to your associations. And for those of you who are utilizing our bill backs or who want to utilize our bill backs, I actually went into our demo site and I created a bill back for 1099 processing and printing. Let me find that. Here we go. All right, 1099 preparation and filing fees. So it's not processed through UManage, so it's not something UManage can capture automatically for you. But one thing you could do, if you click on show, you can import either quantity or amounts into UManage, and you can do it with a spreadsheet from this page right here. So if I click on page action and import data. I created a spreadsheet, just a 2-column spreadsheet. I've got one with the association ID. I have to have that. And then the other is the column, which is the Nelco electronic processing. I have that. So I'm going to say I process 30, and then I'm just going to copy and paste that. I'm going to pop that in. I'm going to tell it to save. Then I'm going to save and confirm. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create the invoice. So I'm going to say 1099 2025, whatever it is I want to call it. Provide whatever that invoice number is. Click save. So the system's going to go ahead and it's going to create my invoice for me. And then once I'm done, I can go over here and tell it to set complete. But if you look here, if I realize I did something wrong, I can delete the invoice. I can also go in and uncomplete it as well. So I'm not married to this if I realize I did something wrong. All right. So now that everything's completed, I'm going to hop over into my Manage Invoice screen. And if I click here, this is the invoice I just created. I'm going to see this is my 1099 processing, 1099 electronic processing, 30 items, $7.50 a piece. That's $225. And this is just something I threw together thinking this would be helpful. So a couple of things you can um, using what you just saw me do, you can bill out what you're doing through Nelco and through your bill backs. If you're not using bill backs, yeah, just let me know. I'd love to get you on bill backs because it just makes that piece of your monthly processing so much easier. Because even though this is not being processed through UManage, so I had to import from another place, there are a lot of things that you're billing for that can be processed through UManage. We can just pull in. So make sure month end items so much easier to get through. UManage will do most of that work for you. And also another item that just occurred to me, if you want, you can download those items that you just pulled out of, or you just filed through Nelco, and you can do a couple of different things with them. You can store them in the associations document, and if you have a folder connected to the portal, they will automatically show up on the portal for you. Or you can create a flow that will push them directly to the portal so they will be available for the board. So those are just some different things you can do with some of our current functionality. Alrighty, so if you guys don't have any other questions, those are just a couple little things that I was thinking about earlier today that I thought might be helpful for you. So if you guys don't have any other questions, and I'm not seeing any questions, and I'm not seeing any hands raised, excuse me, I really appreciate your time today. As always, we appreciate any time that you are willing to give us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.